Hi, welcome to GameMaker. Today, Kinga is joined by David Galindo, the maker of the award-winning series Cook, Serve, Delicious. Kinga has just asked David about his first gaming idea. Let's join them now.
I wanted to make a Mario Kart-like game with the Team Fortress cast. I wanted Team Fortress kart racing. And I thought, boy, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to do anything. So I got GameMaker and just tried it out. And I never did figure out how to make that game. But from that, I just kind of branched out and started making a lot of stuff.
That's a shame because that would be interesting to see Nintendo and Steam or Valve brought together in a beautiful union.
I know, it would have been great.
So how do you approach game design?
Well, I think it comes around to what are some things I want to play that I don't see a lot of out there. And because there are certainly games that I would love to tackle, like roguelike, platform battler kind of things that would be fun to make, but I wouldn't bring anything new to the table. And if I can't bring anything new or interesting, whether that's even something as simple as a new visual design or something no one's ever seen before, then it seems kind of risky and pointless to me to try to attempt it because I'm not adding anything really. It's just basically what do I want to see more of? What do I want to play more of? And can I make something new out of that? I do like refinement of like older gameplay concepts for sure, and just making it better and better. But I think you end up hitting a wall where you take something as far as you can. Kind of like how we did Cook Serve Delicious 3. I think we've taken that concept of incoming orders and holding stations and all of these kind of things we have in the game, all these gameplay dynamics. I think we've literally taken it as far as we can. And anything more now wouldn't feel very new and would just keep overcomplicating things. So you do reach that window where you just have to tear it all down and think, okay, how do I bring new people into our games? How do we get a new audience, but also maintain the audience that has loved our games for so long? And that's a challenge.
Thinking about your innovative and new ideas, when I was kind of researching the games you've made, there was one that stood out to me, and it was Chef Squad. I've never really seen an interactive Twitch chat-based game.
I'm very proud of Chef Squad. That is something that no one's ever really attempted before, and the fact that we were able to pull it off so well, like it simply because when I say that, like I literally just mean that it works. Like I didn't expect for it to work, and it totally works. Yeah. I needed a programmer for sure for that one because I didn't know how to do it, and we hired Daryl Davis, who has a lot of experience in the AAA space, and he was able to program that whole game. And yeah, Chef Squad is about cooking with your Twitch chat and trying to get a perfect day. It sounds a lot like Cook Serve Delicious, but the dynamics are so different. And it's interesting, and like Twitch has always fascinated me. It feels like a frontier that gaming either ignores or barely pays any attention to. There's so much potential there, but it's hard because it's hard to make revenue off of it. So we had to release Chef Squad for free because we couldn't figure out that aspect of, but how do you make money? And we didn't want to compound the already difficult nature of the game, which was making a game no one's made before with, but how do you make money? Because that's just a whole nother thing. So that was our focus with the first game for sure, was just attempting to make it, to have it be a game. And I think if we have some exciting news pretty soon that will kind of hopefully open the door to more of these kinds of games.
Oh, well, I'm very interested. I'll definitely ask about it more out later.
Sure.
But let's take a step back for a moment and let's refocus on probably your most famous game series, I think, which is the Cook Serve Delicious, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, how would you describe Cook Serve Delicious to someone who's never really played it or never heard about it?
There wasn't a whole lot of cooking games out there, like Overcooked and stuff. There was nothing really other than very simple, very casual, very easy cooking sims. And so we were kind of the first ones out of the gate to make what we called a hardcore cooking sim. And ever since then, there's been a whole lot more that are much more challenging games and kind of engage quote unquote gamers. We were really happy to serve this audience that did not really necessarily have like a challenging cooking experience, and that just seemed like this empty void that was really fun to figure out.
What inspired you in the first place to make a cooking game?
I had played a game called Or no Raiori. It was a game that was on a PlayStation demo disc, and they would include a Japanese import game for fun. And that was one of the games. And this was way back in the PlayStation 1 days. And like when I played it, it was so entertaining. It was just a demo, but the core concept of just cooking in that game, I loved it so much. And I made 2 fan games that were free based on that game until I finally made my own concept spinoff kind of thing, Cook Serve Delicious. And Cook Serve Delicious was still borrowing a lot of ideas from Or no Raiori, but it wasn't until Cook Serve Delicious 2 that I really wanted to expand on it in my own way and kind of make my own thing in a sense. Because really, both those games are different, Cook Serve Delicious and Or no Raiori, in that Cook Serve Delicious more challenged you to like build your restaurant empire and stuff. And I think Or no Raiori did level-based gameplay, and it was kind of hard to tell because it was all in Japanese. So I didn't really know what the game was. Like I didn't know what the progression was or anything. So I took this idea of like cooking, but more for a game. I guess gamers is the way to say it. I can't really think of another word, but like people that wanted a challenge, people that wanted to have a fun, challenging cooking simulation game.
And what, except for the difficulty, would you say makes Cook Serve Delicious stand out from other cooking games?
I think the way of orders incoming and having to juggle it around and you can go really fast in that game if you're really good at the commands, and you can speed run it. And you can basically plan your menu in a lot of games. The series, each game is very different. It was always fun to kind of balance between making a very crazy, intense, fast-paced simulator, but also have a very casual Zen kind of mode for those that just want to relax and make French fries all day and not have to worry so much about screaming customers and stuff like that. So that was always fun to kind of like explore both areas and see where we would end up.
Have you ever worked in a restaurant or food service yourself?
Yes, I was a barista for many years. A lot of that difficulty and frustration and stuff culminated from my job 100%. I did not like it, and it was very, very stressful. And for sure, you get a lot of that in the game too.
I definitely can imagine that. So what took me a little bit surprised, but also I found really interesting about the third game was the setting, because it's very much dystopian. You have a lot of natural disasters that influence what's happening. You have a war in America happening, which also makes your life much more difficult. Why did you decide to take that and make it the setting for your game?
Well, when we made Cook Serve Delicious 2, the intention was always that was the last game, and we weren't going to make a third game. And so with the email system in there, which you can read or choose to ignore, you would get emails from random people, and they were just kind of like fun little reads. But if you read them, you would see some people referencing things that were happening outside of your tower, like end of world kind of events and the ruins of LA and all this stuff. And you never really thought about it, or you never really came across that unless you would read the emails, because the game itself never showed you that side of the world. You were in the tower, you were cooking, and everything's cool. And so I always thought that was funny. But then when we decided to make a third game, I thought, well, gosh, we already set up this world outside the tower. Let's literally dive into it, and let's give fans this exciting glimpse of what they were reading about, and actually make it happen. And that was very fun. And it was surprising for a lot of people, but if people like really got into the lore of Cook Serve Delicious 2, they were excited for a different reason, which was like, oh, we finally get to see everything I read about. It was a more exaggerated worldview that I have, which is like just trying to, make these snacks in my food truck while the world is falling apart around me. Because what else can you do, really? Like you just try not to think about it, and you try to live your life. And that was a very fun way of making the game, for sure.
It was very much just like coming with a dog sitting in the room on fire saying, this is fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, you can't have cooking without recipes, and Cook Serve Delicious has numerous of those. Are there just some general foods that you're familiar with and like, or are there some that you invented, or?
It was a lot. A lot of it was my own experience, but a lot of it too, especially with 3, a lot of people wanted more foods from around the world, because it was very limited to like United States and Canada, the last game, Cook Serve Delicious 2. And so I wanted to make it a point to research a bunch of different ethnicities and like a bunch of different foods from around the world. And a lot of it was research, for sure. That was a lot of fun. And there were some things that we didn't get quite right that we ended up having to go patch, or it was stuff where it was like we needed to respect some traditions, and like there would never be meat used in this dish and stuff like that. And that was stuff that I didn't know. Or I would read an Americanized version of a recipe from the Middle East and present it as a Middle Eastern food. And that was a mistake, kind of thing. And I learned all that, thankfully, before the game launched, because we had a lot of beta testers too. And that was kind of tricky. It was very interesting and really cool to see foods from around the world like that. And I did it all myself, and I kind of wish I had brought in some experts that had firsthand experience on these kinds of things, for sure. There's only so much I can learn on my own. And it was thanks to a lot of the beta testers that I learned even more. But yeah.
Do you enjoy cooking yourself?
I don't. I hate cooking a lot. I really do not like it. And I take that as like a good thing, because that allows me to not fret about not getting the cooking experience all the way correct. Like there are some things that we kind of fudge to make the game playable, essentially. And I think if I was a big snooty chef, I'd be like, well, you can't put the oil after you put the chicken on the skillet. You just can't do that. But my programmer senses are like, I have to do that because that's the easiest thing to do. And I don't want to spend days reversing that. And so that's kind of what made it interesting, was like, I've certainly learned how to cook. I still don't like it. But I love watching like MasterChef and playing other cooking games, and everything that revolves around me not cooking personally, I love.
Speaking of MasterChef, actually, we obviously have the icon of the cooking industry, Gordon Ramsay, and we also have the icon of the game cooking industry, which would be Cooking Mama. So my question to you would be actually, whose disapproval would hurt you more?
Oh, disapproval?
Yeah, if you were suddenly faced with being criticized by either Ramsey or Cooking Mama?
Oh gosh,
Which
I think
one?
Ramsey for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cookie Mama. If anything, I've been disappointed in her in a lot of her games lately. I'm like, come on, what's going on here? I'm very disappointed. But Ramsey for sure. I would love and also be sad with his disapproval.
Do you think you'd enjoy playing through Cook Serve Delicious series, or maybe just the second series? I imagine since it's more about running a restaurant.
Yeah, I think he'd get a kick out of it.
I would really love to see that actually.
Oh man, that'd be great.
So, from the recipes that you include in your games, which one is actually your favorite food?
I mean, mine are actually kind of boring. Like I love pizza, I love burgers. I do love okonomiyaki. I've only had that a little bit, but that was something that the head of Zachtronics, Zach, made for me while I was in Seattle one time. And I had like a really nice story attached with that food because he invited me to his home and cooked that. And because I've never had it. And I was like, I'm from Texas. I literally only eat Mexican food or like American food. And so that I like the foods in the games that I kind of have fond memories of, and can kind of taste it at the same time. It's like those two married together is really I get a kick out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was a good questions about Cook Serve Delicious. So now we can talk a bit more about technical stuff. Technically, sure. So GameMaker was your first contact with game development engines?
Yes. It's really been the only one I've used. And I learned coding through GameMaker. I first started with drag and drop for many, many years. And then eventually just kind of graduated myself into GameMaker language. And I was never good at it, but good enough at it. And it's only been until recently that I was able to hire a full-time programmer, that I'm now able to just do full-time game design, which is my real passion.
Could you tell me what is that you like the most about GameMaker as a game developer? Why did you choose it as your primary game making tool?
I love how fast you can build in it. I mean, it shaves our development time by a year practically, just because you can get something up and going in weeks and days even. The game that we're making now, we've only had about 3 full months of programming, if that, and it already looks really great. And it's because of GameMaker's speedy cross-platform development too, that we're able to compress our schedule down so tightly that we're entering a phase where I'm hoping to get one game out a year. And that's not with crunch or anything. It's just literally us making games. And it's because of GameMaker that we're able to do that.
I think that you are a part of an independent game studio. Could you tell me what do you find most challenging about it?
It's challenging not to work every day, all day. I have to force myself to make time for myself to, play other games or read a book or just relax. And I did a calendar last year, and I would mark every day that I would work. And looking back at that calendar last month, that whole year, the only time I wasn't working was when I was in the hospital with an emergency gallbladder surgery. And then 3 days I was taking a trip with family, and that was it. And the rest, it was working. And that was a huge eye opener. And so I've been doing much better. Like January, we had some deadlines we had to meet, but like this month, February, I've taken about 4 days off, and that's huge for me. That's so huge. And it's hard I guess another way of saying it is hard to recognize it as crunch because I've done it for so long. Because it's so fun, it doesn't feel like crunch. If you don't manage that, and you'll get burned out. That's just what's going to happen. Even though you love to do it and you do it every day, you will get burned out. So I'm being very, very careful. And I'm proud of myself that I've gotten pretty far with that, and I feel better doing it. I don't feel guilty in a weird way. But yeah, that is the most challenging thing for sure. Because I know if I do that, oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I know if I don't manage that appropriately, that could also possibly pass on to my employees and our staff, and I don't want that either. So in a sense, I'm doing it for them too, because I don't want them to crunch. I don't ever want them to work. And there are deadlines where we have to really buckle down, but I never want to hit a wall of crunch again.
Do you have any advice for other indie game developers how to manage your time so you can have both time for work and for yourself and avoid burnout?
I try to stop working at a specific time, and no matter what it is, I just stop. That's not always fruitful. Sometimes I work past that, but that and having a checklist of things really helped when I couldn't even get myself to work, because I was so lost, especially when you're starting a game. You're completely lost as what you need to do, because there's just so much to do that you kind of don't know what to start with first. And so in those moments, I always found making a checklist helped. And when I say a checklist, it's really a checklist of anything you can think of. Even have lunch, I would put on the checklist, or take a 5-minute break, I would put on the checklist, so that I would be checking those off. And every day it felt like an accomplishment. And that really helped, because otherwise it was so hard to structure myself and as to what I needed to do first. And by doing that, even if it was a day where I maybe got like 30 minutes of actual work done, it felt like I still got a lot done because of these checklists. So I highly recommend that.
Is there a piece of advice you'd like to share with your past self?
I would say probably slow down, and also have more trust with yourself, because there are moments where I'm like, I can't do this. I have to hire somebody to help me with this, or I need to do this with somebody else. And that didn't work out. And mainly because I just didn't trust myself, or I didn't surround myself with the right people. And that was hard to really to realize that the people that I had working with me were not beneficial for the team, and were not I don't know. It just, to have more trust, to be able to say, you know what, this isn't working. I need to not do this and move on. But I think one of my main problems was always just trying to work something out and trying to make it work when it very clearly was not working. So yeah, I would tell myself, give yourself some grace, give yourself the ability to just break off of a project that isn't working, and have more trust in yourself and slow down.
You mentioned at the start of our talk that you are working on some mysterious games. I'm not sure how much you can talk about them, but I would still like to ask, what are your plans for the future?
We definitely plan on announcing these mysterious games very soon.
Oh, wow.
We're really excited about them. They are unlike anything we've done. It's not a Cook Serve Delicious game, but it is. There's a lot of spirit of the Cook Serve Delicious games in this game. And it's always scary because it looks so dramatically different that you always worry about what your fan base will think, and if they will be on board for this new game. But we're putting so much art and music and gameplay behind it that I feel like people will be very surprised that it's a game from us, because it's just such a bigger game. The people that I've shown our internal trailer to, they're like, this looks expensive. And I said, yeah, it does, doesn't it? It is expensive, but also thank you. And it's so exciting. I'm so excited to see what people think.
Can you tell me which platforms will this game will be available on?
So we're making 3 games.
Okay.
One of which two of them will be on all platforms. One will be Windows only, and it'll make more sense once you see it as to why.
Okay,
But,
I'm excited.
Yeah. But yeah, we're targeting all platforms, but it's still pretty early. We still need to talk with other platform holders and see. But that's always the goal, is to try and release as many things as we can, because we have released on Switch and PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that.
Thanks for joining us today. Hit subscribe and check out one of these videos for more. There are links to Cook Serve Delicious 3, Vertigo Gaming Inc., and, of course, GameMaker in the description below. See you next time.